Hi folks, it's Dr. Steve Russell from Oak Ridges Hospice. Just checking in with you and making sure that you know that we're thinking about you during this difficult time. Here we are well into this pandemic, and many of us have been stretched to the limits because of the restrictions placed on us, whether it's inability to go to work, the social distancing which keeps us away from people we love, our support network, and the breakup of usual routine that has just left us all feeling a little bit off balance. It can be a really stressful time, and all of us are feeling it. And you know, we initially thought this was going to be a short time period, but it really is stretching out into a much longer time frame, which means we're all feeling it that much more. So I'm feeling it, and I'm sure you folks are feeling it too. So I just wanted to check in with you and get us all to think about how we're doing. How are you doing? You know, this affects doctors as well. A group of us at our local clinic got together and had a chat, over Zoom of course, about how we were doing. And we were actually led by one of our colleagues who's got some expertise in counseling and stress reduction, mindfulness and relaxation. And it was really actually helpful to approach it from a mindful perspective. And I found it really encouraging. So I thought I'd share with you some of the things that came up in that discussion. So the thing that came up in our discussion is that it takes resilience to get through something difficult like this pandemic. And there have been lots of stories through history of people, groups of people enduring really difficult circumstances together as a community. So we talked about resilience. What helps a person to become resilient? So we landed on three things. The first thing is gratitude, an attitude of gratitude. What are the things that we're grateful for in our lives? What are the things that we're grateful for even in the midst of these circumstances? So, you know, I stand here in the park just outside our hospice building. This will be a park that we'll all have availability to when the hospice is built, and I can hear the birds chirping. There are little buds that are starting to show on some of the trees. There's some brave, tiny little crocus blooms that come up through the cold soil and show the first signs of life in spring. Those are things that we can notice. For sure, during this tough time, I've been grateful for friends and for family that I can at least talk to, whether it's a phone call, on Zoom, or some other conferencing media, or maybe even a chat across the driveway or from two parked cars. At least there's some way that we can connect to people that we care about. So I'm grateful for those people in my life. And I'm also grateful for the way people have pitched in to help us all through this. I was actually the recipient of a gift of some protective equipment from someone here in the community who actually made face visors. They have an engineering background, and they made face visors for us healthcare workers to use at the hospital. So little acts of kindness like that really go a long way. I'm grateful for that. The second attitude is an attitude of generosity. It's been really easy to focus on my own misery, on being cut off, on all the things that I have to do without during this difficult time. But the generous mindset starts thinking about others. What could I do for someone else to make their time a little bit easier? And there have been lots of examples of people around town who have thought about others, particularly seniors, those who are shut in, those who are vulnerable, and in some kind way have reached out to them, whether it's a phone call or making contact. You know, there's lots of people running grocery errands for other people. Acts of generosity that make you think about other people and their circumstances and get you outside of your own self. And then the third thing we talked about was being part of something greater than yourself. So maybe you're thinking about being part of your family, which has gone on for generations. Maybe you think about being part of a community that's well established and you've been in that community for a long time. Maybe you think about how our area of the world is doing compared to other countries that have suffered much greater during this pandemic. Maybe you think about a project that you've been involved in, some kind of community project that has done great good for other people and will last for ages and ages. You know, I think about the hospice project and the efforts that we've put into building something that's going to help people for years and years to come. Being part of this project makes me think about the long term, and it gives me a view that's much greater than just thinking about the difficulties of this time now. By building the hospice, we're leaving a legacy for generations that follow us of caring, compassionate kindness. If you have a spiritual life, maybe you think transcendent thoughts about being part of a story that's greater than yourself. You're part of a faith tradition that weaves your story into a much larger story and brings meaning to your life and takes you out of the present time and builds you into a much larger narrative. And so in closing, as I stand here beside the hospice project, I think of those three things through the perspective of being involved with the hospice. I'm really grateful for all of you folks who have supported us, who've rallied behind our project and stuck with us through all the years that we've been working on this. I'm thankful for your generosity, your time, your thoughtfulness, of course your financial contributions, all the things that you've poured into this project. And someday soon we'll be giving this project to the community as an act of generosity for the benefit of others. And I'm really glad to be part of something that's greater than myself. I'm really glad that you folks are involved in whatever way that you're involved in the hospice project, so that we can think about this legacy that we're leaving the community and be part of a much bigger story than ourselves. So the pandemic has stretched on a long time. We've been through some tough times, but we're in those times together. We at Oak Ridges Hospice are thinking of you folks. We're with you in spirit, and we want to encourage you that we're all going to get through this together. We're called to be resilient, and it's going to take some endurance to get through this, but we will get through this. And I really long for the day when we can all get together again at one of our events, supporting the hospice, reconnecting with each other, and seeing each other face to face again. Won't that day be great? Thanks.